Good day, everyone. Meteorologist Mark Muller here. It's great to have you here with me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. We are tracking a major, massive East Coast storm that's dropping 2 to 4 inch an hour snowfall rates in some locations in interior Northeast and Southeast Canada. Heavy rain and wind along the coast on order to 2 to as much as 4 inches of rainfall. We'll be looking at all the impacts with this East Coast storm, and we actually have another storm on its heels here in the parts of the plains. We could be looking at a massive blizzard and a severe weather outbreak for Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday across the midsection of the country. We're going to get into all the details. And as we come up on the week before Easter here, could we be looking at another East Coast storm along the East Coast come the 29th into the 30th? We'll take a look at all the details in your stormy weather outlook here as winter seems to continue to want to battle spring. Let's get into it. And for our weekend snowstorm here, this nor'easter, could we be looking at a band of 1 to 3 feet of snow, 2 to 4 inches an hour in some of these areas of northern New England, southeast Canada? We'll get into all the details of just how much snow and which areas will likely see the most accumulation. And snowfall totals on our mesoscale model here, our HRRR, look at additional snowfall accumulations here into parts of the Northeast. We could be looking at a massive snowfall total here. This is going to be one for some record books here, especially across very much northern New England and especially the higher terrain. Severe weather potential across the central states for Sunday looks downright dangerous as we head towards, say, Sunday afternoon and evening. We could be looking at a large area of damaging wind, large hail, and tornadoes, especially in this yellow zone of slight risk through central part of Kansas and Oklahoma. And for your Monday, that dives towards the southeast. Parts of Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi, eastern Texas could be under the gun for a tremendous amount of severe weather with tornadoes included, and even here a little area into parts of Iowa as well as we spread on into Monday. All right, so we take a look at the rest of your evening, Saturday into Saturday night. There is that precipitation here across parts of the Northeast. You can see that big low pressure moving up and interior snowfall here from the capital district of New York all the way into northern New England. Snowfall rates in this area could be upwards of 2 to 4 inches an hour. And then here along the coast where that low gets cranking, that is where we're going to see heavy rain and flooding potential. Now, that low moving up into the Gulf of Maine towards midnight Saturday night. And look, you can see the rain snow line following into New Brunswick here. Those white areas is where we could see 2 to 4 inches an hour. So this low coming on shore near St. John, that is going to be where we're going to see, all the inclement weather here. The good news is this is a fast moving low, so we're done with it by this point. But look what comes in behind this area. This is just going to be one big, massive storm system here. This is going to turn us into severe weather and a northern blizzard. You can see this is 6 a.m. on Monday morning. Look what's happening. You can see this low winding up across the northern plains. Look at that. And then a big trailing cold front. That's where you could see massive severe weather. All right, so starting off with our GFS, and I'll transition over towards the European model. Here is our precipitation depiction. We're going to continue throughout the weekend to see that heavy snow just on the northern fringe of this system. It is a fast mover, so we get towards 5 p.m. on Saturday. You can see where it is located. The mix right in between, maybe some freezing rain, but heavy snow just to your north, turning over to heavy snow Saturday evening across Albany, these areas, Concord, Portland, you're kind of in that mix zone. There's that low pressure system just south of New York City by this time. And then here we go towards 8 p.m. You can see where the heaviest snowfall and precipitation moving, heavy rain across Boston. Lots of wind as well with this. And as we get towards the overnight hours, here's 11 p.m. On Saturday evening, you see the snow wrapping around this system, even New Brunswick here. I'm going to get into the Canadian winter storm outlook momentarily a little bit later in this video, but look at this. You can see where the rain snow line is, kind of moving through kind of the Boston area. Let's just back to, this is really fast moving, which is kind of good news, but it's going to drop snowfall rates of 2 to 4 inches an hour inland here across Maine, northern New Hampshire, Vermont, and then eventually New Brunswick. Here's 2 a.m. on Sunday morning. You can see that moving up into the Canadian Maritimes, really starting to bomb out. Look at behind it here, high pressure building in, and there is our next storm across parts of the plains. You can see a massive low pressure system taking hold. This is going to be moving towards the east-northeast. High pressure building in across the east to start off your week. We're going to see that warming trend. There's that heavy snow event heading way up into the Canadian Maritimes. And our next system, there's that East Coast low, that second one, that's going to be heading out to sea. But here is our plains low. This is what's going to start a massive blizzard here across parts of the Dakotas, Nebraska, eventually parts of northern and central Minnesota. And then we start to see what could be the start of a big severe weather event here across the east as we head towards the 25th, 26th, and eventually the 27th. So watch this. Low pressure heading up through parts of central Ontario, dragging a cold front like this across the eastern lakes and northeast. We might have to watch out for some heavy rain and thunderstorms here across the east. And then look at these low pressure systems just off the U.S. East Coast. This is where we're going to start to see moisture, some tropical moisture feeding northward along the U.S. East Coast. See some mixed precipitation here in northern New England and parts of southeast Canada. Now, as we continue through the forecast period, you can see that low heads way up into the Canadian Maritimes. We try to get some sort of coastal here. It's showing up a lot better on the European model. I'll show you that momentarily. But that does start to affect the Canadian Maritimes by the 29th and into the 30th. We have our next light system moving through here towards the 30th for Easter weekend here. It's going to be close because it's just going to slide across in the form of rain. If we get some precipitation on the northern side, it may end up being some wet snow showers. And then look at here across the southeast. We have high pressure, double barrel high kicking in just in time for your Easter weekend. So things are looking pretty good here across the south. For your Easter weekend, I don't see any major severe weather outbreaks or anything like that. Now look at this, April 1st, April Fools. It's no joke here across parts of the eastern lakes and northeast. We could be looking at some wet snow showers, maybe some bursts of heavier snow with kind of an overrunning scenario situation. You can see the Colorado low here. You can almost depict a warm front or a stationary front in this region, and we get that this time of year. So you're going to have to watch out for that. Pulses of low pressure for the first week of April will move along this, and it's just to the north. It might be cold enough for some wet snow showers. I know we're talking about, springtime weather. It's being spring, but look at this. This may try to go nor'easter on us, pulling enough cold air by April 2nd here for maybe an interior heavy snow event for parts of interior upstate New York and northern New England. So that's something we're going to have to keep a close eye on. And then bombing over the Canadian Maritimes by April 3rd. So we're keeping this massively stormy scenario setting up here. And look at that, another potential low across the Mississippi River Valley. Maybe some snow on the northern fringe with severe weather across parts of the south. You can see where that cold front is going to lie up here across parts of the south. And then as we continue to go here, you can see the last few frames. There it is. Very stormy pattern continuing. It's going to start to become a little bit more fast-moving flow as we get towards the first and second week of April. So if we take a look at the European model here, you can see our East Coast storm pulling away from Florida, dragging a bunch of moisture here through the Bahamas, and then moisture all the way up the U.S. East Coast to the northeast. This will be moving fast, though. We do start to see a two-low scenario take on here. One just south of the Gulf of Maine here, and then one off the North Carolina coast. We're going to continue to watch this as it continues to pivot into southeastern Canada with heavy snow moving across New Brunswick, heavy rain and snow there across parts of Nova Scotia, and eventually Newfoundland. As we look through Sunday morning, what's happening here is this system is moving up through the Canadian Maritimes. You have that big high to the east. Look at the big high, 1030 millibar high here throughout southeast Canada. And our next storm across the plains, this is what's going to start to happen here. You're going to have those blizzard conditions off to the north here. And watch as we go out here in time. You can see the big stormy pattern we're in here. Look at that storm. Yeah, we have our East Coast system kind of hanging out here through Monday morning, the 25th, and there's our big blizzard there in the northern plains. Watch out here. We could see some of that severe weather here across parts of the Plains and Mississippi River Valley stretching to the east here. And as we continue to go out here in time, you can kind of see what's going to be happening. This low really pivoting towards the north here, continuing to strengthen. Severe weather outbreak here as we head throughout 8 p.m. on Monday evening through Little Rock down to Shreveport. And then look at our East Coast low. It might actually clip parts of Cape Cod and Nantucket here as we continue. Look at that pressure gradient, that high to the north, and that low to the south is going to keep these easterly winds, and that's going to help pile up the water and wave action here along the U.S. East Coast here. Now, look what continues to happen as we watch those severe thunderstorms push to the east. Here in the upper Midwest, that low kind of hanging out to the north and west of it here. We're looking at that heavy snow continuing. Showers and thunderstorms pushing towards the Ohio Valley. Into parts of the east here, you can see as we continue through the 27th at 5 a.m., we are essentially getting into Wednesday morning. So the system's starting to slow down as this pattern becomes a bit more blocky. What we have going on here is this big high pressure over northeastern North America, and that's going to push this storm way up into parts of Ontario and Quebec as we see through midweek here, and that's going to push the moisture to the east, showers and thunderstorms. A much warmer week across the U.S. East Coast here, and you see that low kind of gets retrograded back across Hudson Bay here. Now, as we go out to the long term, we're going to see that stormy pattern continuing. We might have another East Coast storm here forming around the Carolinas by the evening of March 28th here, and look what starts to happen. Yeah, this could pivot towards the northeast. Yeah, now that it's not winter, we're actually seeing these storms really blow up here off the East Coast. Let's just back that up there. Clipping parts of southeastern and eastern New England by March 29th. That is getting into dangerously close into Easter weekend here. But we see that pull to the east, and that might be enough cold air pull down for the next system that we might actually see some rain mixing with snow, unfortunately, Easter weekend. Look at the Canadian Maritimes, though. New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, all of these areas could be seeing a tremendous amount of wind and maybe wintry precipitation. And then our next storm on April 1st pushes towards the Ohio Valley into parts of the Northeast and drags a very sharp cold front with damaging wind, large hail, and tornadoes here across parts of the Mississippi and Ohio River valleys. So we're taking a look at snowfall totals here. There it is, the Northeast, and then the Northern Plains as well. So the Northeast, that is falling mainly through the day on Saturday, Sunday time frame, and then our Northern Plains blizzard, that is more of a later Sunday into Monday and Tuesday there. You can see what's going on. So that is quite a massive blizzard as we take it through the forecast period through the 2nd of April. You can see most of the east staying snow-free, but there it is into the Northeast, that massive storm that, look at that. And then here across the plains and Rocky Mountains. And look at there into Western Ontario, Canada. Another bullseye with that blizzard. So snowfall here across the Northeast. Here it is. This is through Sunday and early Monday. Look at this. This is a crazy amount of storm. It's going to be close for you, Albany here, because look at just north of you. That's where you get into the massive snowfall totals. Even pivoting back towards parts of the Finger Lakes, Syracuse, southeastward there. It's going to be close. Look at this. This is like solid 1 to 2, almost 3 feet in some of these areas in Maine and New Hampshire. It's a very tight gradient, though, because look at, you get into parts of southern New Hampshire and Massachusetts, and then upstate New York, and you go from a lot to almost nothing here. So Albany, Syracuse, you're right on the edges here. And if we take a look at the GFS, look at this. Let's get the latest one loaded here. Look. Yeah. This is still a lot of snowfall here. It's still hinting Albany areas northeastward, but mainly Glens Falls area northeastward. Look at that heavy snow continuing there throughout the weekend. This is where we're going to see totals of 1 to 2, maybe 3 feet. That's heading over into New Brunswick as well. So additional rainfall and snowfall. We're just going to take liquid equivalent here first. Our European run, we'll take this through Sunday. You can see what's going on here. These coastal areas and 100 miles inland, that is where we're going to see the 2.5 to as much as 3.5 inches of rainfall. That's going to be a lot. And then look at on the northern fringe of this, that's where the snowfall is falling. So that's going to be quite a massive snowstorm inland here. East Coast just getting inundated. Our next storm here across the plains, the Mississippi River Valley, we're spreading about 1 inch to 2 inches. Locally higher, 3 to 4 inches here, especially across parts of the south here. West Coast also getting hit out here with our next storm system. And then look at that. We just add another storm later in the week that's going to spread up the East Coast as well, adding more insult to injury here with the rainfall totals. So that's not looking good. So here it is across the Northeast for your liquid equivalent. Yeah, this is going to be a continued problem as we head throughout the rest of the weekend. You can see additional rainfall amounts. They're into the red, 2 to 2.5, maybe 3 inches. The purple areas, a lot of this falling is frozen precipitation here on the northern edge. But we continue to see this heavy precipitation moving up through parts of the Northeast and Southeast Canada. I want to show you here towards, say, we get towards Tuesday into Wednesday. There's that system moving across the Ohio Valley and eventually the Northeast. Let's just back that up because that's another. There we go. Okay, so as we head through, say, midweek, we get another system spreading about anywhere from 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch of rainfall here across parts of the Ohio Valley and eastern Great Lakes. And here we go for the European model. There's that additional rainfall and frozen precipitation on the northern fringe here. Look at this. We're just continuing to get inundated here on the order of 2.5, maybe close to 3 inches. Now, the northern part of this is obviously falling in the form of heavy, wet snow. Now, as we take towards, say, the next system, there it is pushing in through the Ohio Valley. This is through, say, Tuesday night, Wednesday. We're adding about anywhere from 1/4 to 1/2 an inch here across parts of Ohio and eastern Great Lakes. So if we take a look at the upper air pattern, we're just going to take our CFS medium range climate model here for a point of reference. You can see there, ridge builds in back across the Northeast after this weekend's big storm. You see these cutoff lows continuing. Look at that trough there across the central part of United States and Canada. That continues to pivot as we get these fast-moving flows. We're not going to be dominated by massive ridges or big, massive troughs. This is going to become a very, very quick-moving pattern until we get to mid-April. Then we start to see a massive troughiness pattern kick back in here across the east. That looks a little negatively tilted. That looks a bit ominous. We may see a East Coast storm during this time. Could it actually contain some wintry precipitation deep into mid-April? It is quite possible. Before then, a stronger ridge takes over the third week of April. Then we start to see a massive warming trend here, especially across the east and west coasts. So here we go, our winter storm outlook across Canada. Yeah, we're still talking about winter up here in Canada. It's going to be continued to be the rule here into early spring. You can see that system there across the northeast part of the U.S. Look at New Brunswick. Yeah, Saturday evening, Saturday night into Sunday. It is a fast mover, so look at Nova Scotia remains rain for the most part, but look at that. New Brunswick, yeah, you're going to get hit here with a lot of heavy snow. Only just, rainfall mix along the coast. That moves up through the Canadian Maritimes as we continue on Sunday into Monday, pushing rain all the way up to Newfoundland here. Now look at this. Yeah, there's our next blizzard here spreading across Ontario. This is during the evening hours of the 25th. So look at how that makes a beeline right across central and northeastern part of Ontario. That's going to be spreading 25 to as much as 35 centimeters of snowfall. I'll go over those snowfall amounts momentarily. But look at the massive amount of mixed precipitation here with our next system across parts of eastern provinces of the Canadian Maritimes here. And look at that. There's our next system across the west coast of Canada, spreading heavy snow. That low pressure across Hudson Bay just continuing to spread moisture back towards the east. Look at how far the range snow line, though, is up towards western Quebec here. So that will be changing a lot of precipitation here as we continue towards next weekend. Here's the 29th. We're getting into snowfall here again across northern New Brunswick, eastern part of Quebec. And look at this. We just continue pushing all these heavy snow events up into parts of eastern Canada. Rain snow line, though, getting pretty far north here. As you can see towards Easter Day, we're going to be talking about what looks like an all-out blizzard here across northern Quebec. So definitely got to keep an eye on this. Staying a very stormy pattern here across Canada. And of course, that low getting hung up here over northern Quebec towards the 31st. But there it is. There's our next system, kind of almost like an Alberta Clipper style system on April 2nd. And if we just continue here, yeah, the West Coast starts to get in on the act, as well as another major snow event here possible April 2nd for parts of New Brunswick. And then we get over towards northern Nova Scotia. So far, our snowfall here across Canada with your winter storm outlook. Yep, early spring here, and snow is still falling across New Brunswick, where we could get up to 25 to 40 centimeters of snowfall out of this system Sunday into Monday across southeast Canada. There's that blizzard across the north central United States plains. That's going to be heading out through parts of western Ontario here, spreading an average of 20 to 40 centimeters of snowfall. And then there's the west coast of Canada getting a little bit here, and then more so towards the first part of April. So yeah, we're just going to keep piling on the snow. This is great news for Canada. So for the tropics, the big story is going to be this frontal boundary moving from the U.S. East Coast down and through parts of the Yucatan here in Belize. All through the Bahamas, you're looking at a major stormy time of it, as well as across Cuba here. Look at this as we head towards Sunday, for that matter. Look at that. The line of storms moving through the eastern Bahamas. By this point, the Turks and the Caicos, eventually Haiti and the Dominican Republic, even parts of Jamaica. As we get towards Sunday into Monday, you could be clipped with shower and thunderstorm action that moves to the east by the 25th. We're getting on the island of Puerto Rico and eventually the Virgin Islands and Northern and Lesser Antilles here. Thankfully, that moves to the northeast. We still will have the influence here later in the week towards the 28th. You can see showers kicking up across the islands here, and then just east of Bermuda as well. So this low is going to be with us for quite some time. Look what's going on, though, back towards the Yucatan, even down towards Honduras. The next cold front, U.S. East Coast storm here, dragging a cold front all the way into Central America, and that heads to the east. Look, there may be some very heavy rains here, the northern coast of Nicaragua, Cayman Islands, up towards the eastern Bahamas. For that matter, the rest of the Caribbean looks pretty quiet, but there it is towards the 31st, March 31st, right around Easter here. We are seeing that cold front pushing across parts of the Caribbean here and then up the East Coast. So there's going to be some inclement weather as we head into Easter, and then there it is, that stalled out frontal boundary here across parts of the Caribbean. Now, high pressure building into the Bahamas come the 31st as well. That looks really good for you for some nice weather. And then look at that. That stalled frontal boundary stays with us through the 1st of April. All right, so rainfall here, Bahamas, Cuba, the big winner here. Look at that. This takes us through midweek. Still a few showers down and through Jamaica, Cayman Islands, and southward here, but it's across the Bahamas. That's where you're going to see 80 to 120 millimeters of rainfall. You're looking at quite a rainy week. Also towards Honduras here, parts of southern Belize, towards next weekend, you could get upwards of 80, 90, 100 millimeters, 3 to 4 inches. And then through the Cayman Islands and Jamaica, you're going to see that standard 13 to 26 millimeters, nothing more than a half an inch likely. So moving across the eastern Caribbean here, you can see that system as we head throughout, say, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that is going to spread across parts of the Caribbean islands. Thankfully, you can see the worst of it does stay north of this line. So you're going to end up with about, say, 16 to 35 millimeters on average here, which will net you about a half to 3/4 of an inch. I got plenty more weather for you in just a moment. But take a look at my affiliate. Do you want some awesome maps? Check this out. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. All right, so temperatures here in our extended outlook Sunday. It's just cold up here in the extreme far northern sections, north of that line. South of that line, we're seeing very warm temperatures. Now, when you get this kind of temperature clash out here in the plains, you know there's going to be a battleground going on here. So that's going to be in the form of severe weather. 40 spreading across parts of the Ohio Valley into Monday here. Look at this. All the way up to Cleveland, we're seeing 60s, even some 50s here into parts of the Northeast. We're eroding that cold air, but you can see where that storm is. Look at the Arctic air behind it. That's where the blizzard's going to be happening Tuesday. That cold air pivots towards the east. We still see 50s and 60s spreading northward. Look how toasty South Texas and Florida is here. Parts of Florida could be approaching 90 degrees by Wednesday here. Look at this. But you see the cold air is bottled up here in the northern plains. A surge of warm 50s here and even some 60s towards Pittsburgh. As we get into Thursday, we see that flip-flop again. Maybe a little slightly cooler, upper 40s, lower 50s. But look at here, that warmth building again. We're moderating those temperatures across the northern plains here. And then as we head towards Friday, Good Friday here, look at the warmth here across the east. Well into the 70s and 80s. It looks like a decent start to the Easter weekend here across parts of the east. Extended outlook from hometown viewers, Binghamton to Scranton, Upper Susquehanna River Valley of New York and Pennsylvania. Look at this, Sunday and Monday, we pulled that storm system away, turning mostly sunny. Maybe lower 40s for Sunday. Sunday night, it gets really cold into Monday morning, upper teens, lower 20s. But look at this, by the mid-50s by Monday and Tuesday. Look at that, pushing towards 60. But showers move in for Wednesday. And then look at that, clearing towards the end of the week with staying in the 50s. As always, I want to thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also at Weather Northeastern, also at Hurricane Northeastern, and also at Susquehanna Weather. Also, Twitter at Weather Eastern, and you can visit me at MeteoMark.com. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to check out my winter weather outlook for 2023-24, and link in the description down below, as well as my affiliate, Trilogy Maps.